Good. I don't know. Is it afternoon? Yes, afternoon now. Richard, how you doing? Well,
I'm good, my man. Good.
Good to sit down with you again, albeit a couple of years after we spoke. Time flies, right?
Yeah, it's kind of mad. That's like 2 years ago.
Britain's Got Talent star, for all those who don't know, made the semi-finals last time, right?
Yeah. I know what. Well, I just done it recently on for a Christmas special, and I was the runner-up. So we did it. It was a all magicians final, the best of the magicians.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Around
so let's talk about that, because was that pressure? Because it's a different format from the usual show, right? And I guess a nod to the talent that you magicians encapsulate in all its diverse guises. So talk about that. Preparing for that, slightly different from preparing for the show 2 years ago, right?
A little bit more pressure doing a show like that, because obviously you're not up against like, you know, musicians or singers, dancers, whatever. You're up against your own field magicians, the best in the world. So it's like now you're getting judged like specifically. So there's a lot more pressure in that. The routines have to be a lot more sharp. And everyone's judging you within the industry and is looking at it. So that was a challenge, and they had some of the best magicians like we've had in the last decade. Do you know what I mean? Not just in the talent shows, but people that have made magic tricks for David Copperfield. You know what I mean? Vegas magic. People I looked up to when I was a kid were in that competition. So that was something special to do. Just to be on that lineup was like rah. It was a big deal. And to get runners up, I came second. I was like rah, like that shows progression in where I've come in the field of magic. So it was an honor to do that show. So it was good.
What was your favorite part of the show? Was there anybody else that kind of blew your mind along the way?
Do you know what? We didn't really get to see each other's act, because everybody was working on their own act, and they sort of didn't want each magician to influence or be around. So we were kind of kept separate between each act. So when I got to see everyone else's act, I saw it on telly like everybody else. I saw it on the 18th of December. I was like, right, this is what he did.
Now, it went down well. I know a lot of people enjoyed it. I know a lot of people enjoy what you do, specifically because it's someone who we can relate to in the space. We don't see too many black magicians, right? You've got a big tour coming up, Richard. A big tour. Lots of dates. Kicks off on the 2nd of March, I believe. Is that right?
Yep, kicks off the 2nd of March. We're going around the country again, but like you said, to a lot more places.
Soulful Magic.
Yeah,
I like the name.
Yeah, Soulful.
Why the name?
Well, you know what, Soulful, my kind of brand of magic is celebrating, you know, the culture. So my first show was Black Magic, and that was just kind of like changing the narrative. Like there's, you know, I spoke about there's a lot of stigma around the word black and magic. What does it mean? There's religious connotations to it, and there's a lot of things attached to it. And what I wanted to do is just to celebrate, use black in a sort of celebratory way, like talk about how we all have a magic in us, and you know, our culture, our music. And Soulful Magic is just an extension of that. We're going into, it's a concert of magic. You know, I grew up performing magic to music around my house. My dad was a very soulful guy, so I listened to a lot of Stevie Wonder, a lot of Lionel Richie while I'm practicing with cards. I was also a dancer, so all these things influenced in the style of magic I do. So the show is actually just a celebration of the culture. There's amazing magic tricks, but if you just imagine like bopping your head to a magic trick, which you probably wouldn't do in a normal scenario, but in my show, we're here to have a lot of fun. So
what was it about how you devised the dates and the venues and stuff? Was it that you looked at what you've done before and said, right, we've got to go bigger and better? And for people that are coming to the show who maybe saw you on that last run, is there a big difference in what you're delivering in terms of tricks and illusions? Yeah,
there is. I mean, I wouldn't say there's a big difference. I'd say it's more an extension, an expansion. Right. It's a bigger show. There's more illusions. So, you know, you've got all the classic kind of Vegas type illusions. There's big levitations, big disappearances. But we've also got the intimate stuff, like the stuff that like you would do up close and personal. We'll put it on a big projector screen, but kind of like magic that involves a lot of technical skill, sleight of hand. Like I said, the stuff I did when I was a kid, practicing in front of the mirror and listening to, you know, James Brown and stuff like that. So there's a big variety in tricks, And we just wanted to sort of expand it. You know, my style, and you know, you don't really, like as you said, you don't really see many black magicians globally. We're coming up. You know, the art is becoming more exposed. So I'm just trying to spread it across the country and let people know that, you know, we're out here.
You bringing anybody else in, or is it a one-man show?
It's my fiance. She is my assistant in the show. So she's heavily a big part of the show.
What's it with you guys and the assistant in the show being there's always a romantic involvement?
Nah, you know what it is? She actually choreographed a lot of the pieces in the show. She's a dancer herself, and she's a choreographer and artistic director. So she does a lot of the behind the scenes and builds a lot of the plots, the illusions, and sort of does the production value side of things as well as the performance side of things. So she's a big part of the show.
I guess before I get into more about the show, working with your partner as you do, I know she's overseas at the moment, right? It's the month of love, right? February is the month of love and Valentine's. Whoever he is, I don't know who he is. Do you know who Valentine's? Do you know who Valentine's?
I don't know who he is.
You know what? Everybody I speak to, no one knows who he is, but everybody wants to celebrate the day. But let's just talk about the period. How do you guys separate that work, husband, wife? Oh, well, you're not married yet, engaged.
Well, I feel like you've been married.
Yeah, I know she's white. She's not going nowhere. How do you separate that? Do you make an effort to make a distinction between time when you're together as working, time when you're together as husband?
Do you know what? We both love what we do. We're both passionate about performance, music, culture, and right now the journey we're on is just a constant celebration. You know, the last few years has even reinforced that more. Like, you don't know what's around the corner. And we just try and celebrate every moment we have together, whether that be in a work capacity or whether that's just at home. So when you love what you do, it's really crazy because it becomes part of your life. It becomes a way of life. It doesn't feel like work. We're blessed enough to be able to do work that doesn't feel like work. So we're super excited, and the kind of work we do, we're fortunate enough to, you know, travel around the world. So we just take a moment just to always constantly be, you know, grateful for what we have, and, you know, always taking. So we do take time out to just take in what, you know, the journey we're on, and just always constantly celebrating. And it's always love, you know.
Little man, is he showing a kind of love for the magician, the magic and all that? I know you teaching him a few tricks.
Yeah, do you know what? He's at a really beautiful age. My son's 5 now, and he's at that age where, like, he thinks, you know, he's Spider-Man. He's a big fan of Spider-Man, and he makes me realize, you know, magic is real, because when I show him something, you know, to see the look in his face and the excitement, the joy, that's why I do magic, to give those kind of reactions, those kind of feelings. So he's not necessarily performing per se magic. He's definitely dancing around the house and jumping around, making a mess, as kids do. But he's definitely given us a driving force of why we're doing this, and just you know, he sharpens our routines as well, because sometimes he's like, do you know what? I didn't really like that, Daddy. Can you make it levitate? Can you do this? Can you do this? And challenging me to do this is like, make this disappear. And I'm like, I can't make that disappear. That's a big ask. But yeah.
Makes you think outside the box.
Yeah.
Now, it's good, because my next question was going to be, how are you honing your skills? How do you do that once you've reached a certain level? I mean, in the last interview we spoke about your journey and, you know, your first show in 2011, you know, and it being a near decade of you kind of just elevating and ascending, culminating with the BGT exposure and all of the good stuff that's gone since then. How do you hone your skills? How do you get better? Because we don't know what that looks like.
Do you know, that's a very, very good question. You know, you're constantly practicing, you're constantly setting yourself new challenges, and but I always think, always go back to the basics and just keep refining the basics. Get really good at something that seems simple and make it, so something that's difficult, the more you do it, becomes simple. So we always go back to the basics of, you know, like I put cards in the show a lot, and I refine my card technique just so I can keep going. And in terms of pushing myself to another level, it's not really with the technique anymore. It's more about the concepts and the stories.
Right.
Where am I going with this? Because I think all art is storytelling, and we're always trying to find new stories to tell, interesting ones. So in terms of the technique, that's just constant drilling. But in terms of like, where am I taking this to now? What story am I telling? How am I trying to excite a new generation? That's where, you know, you have to do your research, find out what's going on in the culture, find out what's going on in, you know, just life. And that's why traveling helps, speaking to people and reading your books. And so that's how I kind of refine that. You know, I just always make sure I'm always alert and be open to learning as well.
What's the last book you read?
The last book I read, do you know what? I'd have to say it was actually a magic book.
Oh, okay.
A guy called Joshua J. I forgot the title of his book, but it's a magician called Joshua J. And I read his book on performance. So
that would be a way that you're honing your skills as well, then, really.
Yeah, definitely. It's something I always do. I read a lot of old school magic books. I'm interested in, like, you know, a lot of my stuff is obviously has history. I'm just interested in like how they did things back in the day without all this fancy, amazing technology we had. How did you just have that pure, raw entertainment just on stage or in person? So I read a lot of the history behind that, the stories, and it's fascinating.
You touched on the next generation. You appeal to them, obviously, because of the elements that your shows encapsulate. How do they be you? Because there's a young magician out there who, if he hasn't swatted up already and watched my interview with you a good 10, 15,000 times, they're going to be wondering, how do I turn my, you know, curiosity and that initial passion into following a pathway to kind of ascertain the success that you have?
I think now we have more, magic is more accessible. It's more open to different races, different genders, ethnicity, religions, everything. So I think like now it's like the internet is a good start, obviously. And you can go in all these magic groups now, all these forums. The Magic Cafe, where it's called the Magic Cafe Forum, is probably one of the best resources for young magicians, because it sort of opens your eyes into, you know, magic and the industry. And so you just go on there and just read. And then obviously I always recommend finding out a local magic club around your area. We have the Young Magicians Club. There's the Magic Circle, the Young Magic Circle for Magicians. That's definitely a good place to start. And then there's Blackpool Convention. That's the biggest magic convention in the world, and everybody's there. So it's good because you can go there, see magic shows, but you also get to meet other magicians, some of the most famous magicians in the world. So I guess the easiest answer is just to sort of go out there and meet people and connect.
Build your network.
Build your network. And it's not that hard. It's not like, it sounds, you know, how do you learn magic? It sounds quite daunting, but then, you know, now we have the internet, you know, as long as you can find somewhere that has a club or a society, you know, it starts from there and you're off.
You're, I guess, one of the things I took from the last interview we did is that you had performed in front of 14,000 people in the Philippines, right? Which I guess sets you up for life, because you're never really scared of a big audience now, are you? So is the intent to top something like that, or is it just literally build your name up, do these extensive tours in the UK, then do another one around Europe, and do another one in America, so then you become that name globally? Is that the part
that's definitely things I'd like to do.
Right.
I think in terms of performing in front of big crowds, I don't know if you know, and I don't know if you've ever done performance before, but it's actually, once you on a stage and you're in front of thousands of people, it's weird because it's actually easier sometimes than to be perform in front of 30, 40 people, you know, sitting there looking at you just directly in front of you. Sometimes it's actually harder because when you're on a big stage, you don't see anyone, you don't see any faces, you just see big lights.
So you can just go into your art as opposed to focusing on
whereas when you're like, if you're on the street, I used to do street shows, you see everyone. You see everyone who's like, do you know what I mean? You see every little look, so it's different. So the bigger the better, actually. You can, and it's more, becomes more theatrical. So that's a really exciting thing to do. And I think like, I don't think I've really started. You know, I feel like right now, I've been fortunate enough to have done some really good shows. I've been in the West End and all this, really good things. But I think the journey is just beginning. You know, I think there's so much more to do. I'd love to.
You've got that look on your face. Sorry to cut you. You've got that look on your face that you can see it in your mind's eye. So share it with me. What does it look like?
I'd love to do a big special. I want to do Black Magic as a TV special. I've been pitching that idea to channels for the longest time. No one's picked up on it yet, but I want to pitch and go around the world looking at some of the black cultures, performing magic to them, and just seeing what that really looks like, the art of magic versus the cultural connotations that we've had, magic, and just seeing when when you show magic to even my mum at church, she's like, no, don't do that, don't do that. Them ones there. So I'm interested to explore that. Also take it to Africa, because there is actually magicians like in Nigeria now, in Ghana. We never that was unheard of now, and then you're seeing that on social media. So I'd like to make a TV special around that, and the big dream has always been to make a film. So this is the first time I've actually said that live on camera.
Last time, actually.
Did I say it on camera?
I think you said it last time. I think so. I'm going to check, but I think you did.
Maybe. I don't really share that. It's just one of those things where...
It's literally, I was watching the interview again, as I do before I re-interview somebody, and it cut out just at that bit. I think so. Afterwards, we'll go back and I'll check. But I think you did mention it before. Yeah,
and I'd love to take the show to America, to Vegas, but there's so much more in the pipeline, I think.
It's exciting times for you, and I'm, I hope to see you elevate and reach all of the heights that you're.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
To shoot for. That's my last question, because we touched on the internet and how it can make it easier for that next generation to kind of segue into different facets of the art form. Is it a hindrance at the same time for you guys though? Because I a lot of the time I might get caught, lost on my explore page, and magicians come up and they're telling you how to do tricks, and I'll be like, oh, is that how you do it? Oh.
Yeah, that's a
how has that been received? Because it's a new phenomenon, I guess, right?
That's a really painful one, actually. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not my generation. My generation was like, secret. You didn't. It's a secret. You don't share it openly. You let people. Obviously, everybody learns magic because we all share the secret, but you have to prove yourself. You have to show yourself. Usually we had mentors, and you say, okay, learn this, do this little trick, or learn this slide. When you show me you can do that, then I'll bring you in, show you a couple more things, and you work your way up, and that's how you learn about value. You learn that this actually has value, this art form. When you just give it away, especially to people who didn't even want you to give it away to them, it loses its value. People are like, okay, cool. That's not, this all tricks. They lose the value in magic, So me personally, I'm not really a fan of exposure in that form. I don't mind you teaching magic, letting people learn the process, but exposure in the sense of like, here's how I did it. So what's that? Master Magician started all of that. However, the internet on the other side of things can be a beautiful thing, because it brings the whole world together in one amazing space. So you get access to whatever you would need to find access to, if you know how to find it. So it is a blessing. It is a blessing. When you all encompass it, it is a blessing. If you leave away the whole guys exposing and trying to get famous by just exposing things, the actual internet is beautiful, because there's so many places you can people you can connect with, resources, and so yeah.
Or people can connect with you in real life, IRL, on your tour, Soulful Magic, Magical Bones, which kicks off March 2nd in Swindon, right?
Yeah.
And goes all over the country. I won't mention all the venues, but do check out his website for all the details and the dates. And yeah, man, good luck with everything you're doing moving forward.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much.